Welcome back to Quick Slants on the OU Insider YouTube channel. Parker Thune alongside Jesse Crittenden, and many of you have asked that we break down the offensive line at the University of Oklahoma heading into the spring 2023 season, as obviously we look forward this fall to year two of the Brent Venables era. Bill Bedenbaugh has got some maulers up front, and if you've been paying attention to the NFL free agency market the last couple of weeks, a lot of the guys that Bill Bedenbaugh has developed over the years at Oklahoma are doing pretty well for themselves at the next level. Now, Jesse, as we look at the picture for Oklahoma up front in the trenches in 2023, I want to ask you this question first, because I think it's the question that is probably being kicked around the most. If you had to pick five starters, left to right, along the offensive line, who do you think starts? Because you can look at probably 10 to 12 different guys that are going to have a say in those battles.
Yeah, that's really tough. I mean, I think if I had to pick five, man, that's tough. So I think the offensive line is going to be maybe the most highly contested position group, at least at a couple of spots. But I think I'm going to say, Andrew Rame and McCade Mattower, Walter Rouse, assuming he comes back from, his surgery and is healthy. I think he's going to grab that left tackle spot. You would think that Tyler Guyton will get that other tackle spot. I mean, you would think he would. And then I think there's going to be some question at that other guard spot. Is it someone like Caleb Schaefer? I guess that's the five I'm going to go with. But we were looking at. We got to watch practices for the first time yesterday, and Aaron Parks is getting, first reps alongside McCade and Andrew. So, I think it's really tough to say, but I guess that's the five I'm leaning on right now. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Jacob Sexton, of course, started the bowl game for Oklahoma, suffered a knee injury, a severe knee injury at that on the very first play. And that was at least part of the onus behind Oklahoma's pursuit of Walter Rouse in the transfer portal, was the uncertainty as to whether Jacob Sexton was going to recover in time to be ready for the 2023 season. Now, in speaking to folks behind the scenes, kind of getting a sense of how Sexton is progressing, I think it is a fair expectation that he's going to be ready for fall camp and should be 100%. Obviously, nothing's a guarantee, especially when you're an offensive lineman and you're coming off an injury that is that significant. But Walter Rouse comes in as a fifth-year senior, spent the previous 4 seasons at Stanford, is a guy that has close to 40 starts under his belt, if my memory serves me correctly. And he's a limited participant throughout spring because of a labrum injury that he was dealing with throughout the 2022 campaign at Stanford. But I think Rouse comes in as your insurance policy on Sexton, i.e., I don't know that Oklahoma is necessarily banking on Sexton being a starting tackle in 2023. If it works out that way and he recovers fully and he's exactly what he was in 2023 as he was in 2022 post-injury, then great. But if not, you have a plug-and-play option in Rouse who can give you 1 year as the starter, and then it's Sexton's show in 2024 and beyond. On the other side, definitely feels like Tyler Guyton has the inside track to be the starter at the other tackle position. Andrew Rame is going to be your center as long as he stays healthy, but it's those guard positions that I think bring the most intrigue, Jesse, because you mentioned McCade Mattower. I don't know that his job is safe the way that he performed in 2022. If he returns to the lineup for Oklahoma, he's going to have to earn it, and he's going to have to earn it over a guy like Caleb Schaefer, who was a 4-year starter at Miami of Ohio, over a guy like Cullen Montgomery, who has drastically reshaped his body. You throw in Caden Green, the true freshman, who is, you want to talk about college ready. That guy is it. And then I think the big unquantified variable along that offensive line room is a former top 100 recruit in Savion Byrd, who can play guard, can play tackle. Everybody was kind of taken aback by his weight when the spring roster was released yesterday. And I don't know exactly what Bill Bedenbaugh's vision for him is as far as what they want his body type to look like. And that's going to vary based on whether you want him at tackle or at guard. But Savion Byrd is certainly a guy that has the sheer talent and has the athleticism to be a high impact Power 5 starter. It just hasn't really all come together for him yet. So, Jesse, let me ask you this. You have two outstanding running backs in the backfield for Oklahoma going into this season in Javonte Barnes and Gavin Sawchuk. You got a quarterback in Dylan Gabriel who he was under duress at times in 2022, but was pretty effective and pretty efficient from a clean pocket. How much does the offensive line play factor into whether Oklahoma is able to take a leap in terms of wins and losses from 2022, into 2023?
No, I think obviously, the both sides of the line of scrimmage are the most important parts of of any team. And I mean, they simply are. And you can have all the talent in the world at your skill positions on offense, but if your offensive line isn't at least consistent or elite, it's going to be tough to have much success. And I do think that was a part of last year, especially once OU got in the conference play, that there just wasn't enough consistency among that group. And that's why, you asked me earlier to name 5 starters. I mean, outside of Andrew Rain, I think it's really tough to project that. And that's, again, I think why going into spring ball, the offensive line is one of the key areas where I think there's going to be a lot of position battles. That's why, it's tough because you're right. You mentioned Javonte Barnes, you mentioned Gavin Sawchuk. Those are still a couple of really young guys, not to mention, I think the wide receiver room is going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. Do some of these younger guys step up into bigger roles? So all that is to say, I think outside of Dylan Gabriel and, someone like Drake Stoops, that, the skill positions there's going to be a little bit of inexperience or a little bit of youth at those skill positions. So that's why I do think there's going to place an even bigger importance on the offensive line. I expect the offensive line to be, it's tough because, you lose a couple of really solid starters from last year. I expect the offensive line to be probably better. I think the question is going to be, how much depth do you really have? And how consistent can that group be in conference play? But all that being said, they need so much on the offensive line, I think, considering how young a lot of the skill positions are going to turn out to be.
How much trust do you have in Bill Bedenbaugh as you look ahead to 2023? Because it seems that even last spring, when we looked ahead to the 2022 season, it was very easy to predict who the 5 starters were going to be. Everybody kind of understood who those 5 guys were. And now it's the polar opposite in 2023. You have no idea. And there's, for instance, a couple guys we didn't even bring up really in that conversation, and Jake Taylor and Aaron Parks, that are going to have a shot to be on the 2 deep or could make a push from behind for playing time. But with the knowledge, or rather the lack of knowledge, as to who is going to draw the starts for Oklahoma at tackle, at guard, at center in 2023, are you one that is a little bit uncertain until you know exactly who's going to fill those positions? Or are you more of the mindset that, hey, Bill Bedenbaugh has more than earned the benefit of the doubt, and whatever 5 he throws out there is going to be more than adequate?
I think I'm more the latter, and I'm certainly not going to say that everything along the offensive line the last couple of years has been perfect, or that Bill Bedenbaugh has always made the right decisions or anything like that. But I do think in a lot of ways he's earned the benefit of the doubt. I mean, look at the way the offensive linemen that OU was putting into the NFL. I think it's clear at the very least Bill Bedenbaugh has a really good track record for developing offensive linemen, and I think in some ways that's going to be the focus for spring practice and fall camp, is how much can those guys develop, not only who starts obviously, but you're going to have to develop guys to start in those spots. But I do think I trust Bill Bedenbaugh to have a very good understanding of what exactly he has in the room. I don't think he's going to be married, to the idea that guys have to be in certain spots. I think he's going to try a lot of different combinations. You really can't afford not to, with kind of how wide open this offensive line group really is. So I trust him. I trust him to get creative. I trust him to take a really deep look, because again, outside of Andrew Rain, all those spots are kind of up for grabs. And I actually think in that case, it almost makes me more confident in Bedenbaugh when you almost have a blank sheet of paper to fill those spots. I actually think he might be better in that position where it's fully a development game and to figure out who's going to start in those spots.
Spring ball is less than a month away at the University of Oklahoma. The spring game comes your way on April 22nd, and Brent Venables wants you all to know that it is not an 11 a.m. kickoff. It is 2:30 for the spring game on the 22nd of April. Until then, we'll be counting you down with plenty more quick slants here on the OU Insider YouTube channel. Stick around, hit that subscribe button for more content as we progress throughout the spring. For Jesse Crittenden, I'm Parker Thune. We'll see you next time.